Welcome to Beyond the Blend, the podcast that goes behind the science and talks to the people at the heart of the lubricant market, telling the real story of the people who make the lubricant market move. With real insight and honest conversations, we aim to show off the people's side from across the entire lubricant supply chain. Join me, Steve Knapp, and Rob Taylor as we delve behind the scenes of the lubricant industry. Let's go. Let's start with a quick 5 from 5. Simon.
Yes.
Out on site with customers or back at base with the team?
Out at site with customers is my preference. Yep.
Here we go. Are you a pizza or a pasta man?
Pizza every day.
Data and dashboards first or boots on the ground first?
Boots on the ground.
Okay. Winning a brand new customer or growing deeper with an existing customer?
Probably winning a brand new customer, like the buzz from that.
Love it, love it, love it. And last, are you a night in with a good book or are you feet up watching a good film?
Feet up watching a good film, definitely.
Okay.
Depends on the book.
Yeah, well, indeed. But what was the last film you watched, Simon?
The last film I watched was just the other night, and it was a film called Anniversary.
Oh, don't know that one.
Yeah.
Worth a watch? Recommend?
It was pretty good, yeah. It was basically about this girl who was setting up this change in the USA. She'd written a book about change in the USA, and I think it was basically trying to get across not having a choice between political parties. It was just one sort of way of thinking. And this book she wrote was massively successful, and America did change to this way of thinking. But she was together with an old lecturer's son. This lecturer was completely against the way she thought, and it was just all the things happened, and everyone ended up killing each other in the end. And it was it was interesting. It was something different. It was just something I came across on Netflix. It was good.
Nice one. So film recommendation already. So fantastic.
Yeah.
So let me tell people who we're talking to. So welcome back to Beyond the Blend. Today I'm joined by Simon Campbell, Managing Director of Pure Lubrication, a lubrication reliability specialist based in Scotland. Simon spent around 30 years in fuels and lubricants, starting with Highland Fuels, and then 21 years with the Lubricant Company, and now leading the team at Pure. He focuses on reliability, customer experience, and building a business that balances people, planet, and profit. We're going to talk about how he found his way into the lubricant space, what he's learned about leadership and growth in an independent business, and where he sees the lubricant world heading next. So an exciting chat ahead of us. But before we jump into that, Simon, welcome to Beyond the Blend. In your own words, introduce yourself. Maybe tell us where you are in Scotland and maybe a little bit about those early years. Tell us about Simon.
Sure. Okay, well, thank you for the introduction. Thanks for having me on this. I'm Simon Campbell. I'm the Managing Director of Pure Lubrication, as you said. So we supply lubricants and lubrication-related equipment, automatic lubrication systems, that kind of thing. And we're heavily focused on providing reliability solutions as well. So we work closely with partners like Quaker Houghton, Lubrication Engineers, SKF, and we're really coupling our expertise with these expert brands to just make life easier for customers out there. It can be a complex industry, a complex world, and we just try to make it as simple as possible, so people don't need to worry, they don't need to think, they just contact us, and we'll do all the dirty work and the complex stuff. So and I'm based in Inverness, so up in the Highlands of Scotland. We've got offices up in Inverness, and we've got an office in Glasgow as well. We've got a base down in Essex, and we have people dotted all around the country. So we're fairly well spread out. But my roots are up here. I've generally always worked in Inverness, albeit my work has taken me all around the UK. Yeah, there's a team of 3 of us in the Inverness office just now. But Glasgow is our head office. I've listened to a few of your podcasts, and I think what's funny is that the majority of the people you speak to tend to have just fallen into this industry. I mean, I didn't go through school thinking, right, I must work in the lubricants industry. That was never how it was how it was meant to be. When I was at school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, other than at one point I wanted to be a teacher, and I didn't really stick in as well as I should have done. I remember there was one year, I think I was doing my hires, and it was a beautiful, hot, sunny summer. And so I would take my work outside. I was on study leave, and I would take my work outside, and I would be sitting in the sun. And I mean, it sounds pathetic, but the sun was so bright on my sheets that I just thought, that's too bright. I can't study. So I would just sunbathe. So I kind of messed up, on some of my exams. So I didn't get the qualifications I needed to become a teacher. So I ended up just trawling through the university prospectuses, seeing, right, what course can I do with the qualifications I've got? And I found upon this one for hospitality management, and thought, right, that'll do. So off I went to Glasgow, Caledonian University, and it was great. I mean, it was a great experience for me. But yeah, hospitality management. Spent 3 years doing that. I got a BA degree at the end of that. But all the way through, I was thinking, this is not what I want to do. But it was quite it was a general degree, management degree. So it kind of covered a lot of things. There was science involved, there was marketing, there was finance, all that kind of stuff. And I remember finance was the bit I was really scared of, the accounting. So I studied extra hard for that. And I actually won an award that year for the most outstanding accounting student. I don't know how. And it shows how long ago that was. The prize was an encyclopedia. Yeah, so that was 3 years in Glasgow doing that. Came out of university, went back home to Dingwall, where I'm from, which is north of Inverness, about 20 miles north of Inverness. I got a job in a hotel, actually thrown in at the deep end. I was manager of that hotel. And it was a nice hotel. It was a castle. It was very grand, and, kind of fitted the Highland scene. And I did that for a while, but it was very long hours, as you can imagine. I was working sometimes 7 days a week. I was working all hours. I was locking up at midnight or beyond that if there was a wedding on, and back in at 6 o'clock doing breakfast. And I just realised this is not for me. So I left that job, and I thought, right, I don't want to work in this industry. What can I do? And then I struggled for a bit, in and out of different jobs, end up in retail. And I suppose that's where I got my first real sort of taste for customer service. And, well, I realised I really enjoyed that side of things. I was customer facing, obviously. But that, again, I did that for a couple of years, but I felt that's not for me. I don't want to do this either. And the real reason for that was it was weekend work. It was working, through the Christmas holidays, Boxing Day, that kind of thing. I thought, no, this isn't for me either. So I just looked to see what was going at the time, and I saw this job as a sales negotiator at Highland Fuels, and so I went for that. Had the interview. They said they were maybe taking on 1 or 2 people. They hadn't decided. I got notified that I didn't get the job, and they only took on 1 person. I didn't get the job. But then within a couple of weeks, I got a call saying, actually, we're taking on a second person. Are you still interested? And that was me. That was my first sort of dipping my toes into the world of oil and lubricants. And I remember my first day, I got a desk, and I felt so important, and I could have a cup of coffee at my desk and eat at my desk. I thought, this is great. And I didn't know anything about oil or anything like that. And I hadn't really done a full-on sales role before, so it's quite a steep learning curve. Obviously, the retail side was sales, but not really, not as we know it now. So, but that was great. Loved my time there. Sales negotiator. It was predominantly selling fuel to domestics and commercial premises, and lubricants was always an add-on for us. And to me, it was a very, very scary add-on. I knew nothing about lubricants. I'm not from an engineering background at all, and I just, we were kind of told that we needed to sell lubricants. If someone was ordering diesel, ask them if they need this or that, and I was just scared stiff of it, just we were incentivized at the time, and that did push us. But yeah, so that was that, and I did that for a few years, and then it just kind of progressed through the company, and eventually there was some changes in the business, and I got this opportunity to become I suppose a traditional sales rep out in the road selling lubricants. At that point, it was we were an Esso distributor, so I was going up and down the length of Scotland, up to Wick, up into the Highlands, down to Glasgow, Edinburgh, the borders, selling lubricants. And that was a steep learning curve, quite a lonely existence, but it was good. I started to really learn a lot about the industry and lubricants and, what mattered to people, and learned a lot about the sales processes. And so I did that for a good few years, enjoyed that. And then the ExxonMobil merger happened. Then so Highland Fuels got together with a company, SLS, at the time. We were the Esso distributor, they were the Mobil distributor, both operating in Scotland. So it kind of made sense now that we're all kind of working under the one ExxonMobil brand to get together, and at that point formed the Lubricant Company.
Before we jump into the Lubricant Company, I think there's a little bit to dig around with.
Yeah, go on.
In the Highland Fuels space, because I mean, not only in your introduction was I delighted to hear that you have a place in Inverness and Essex, and you clarified that you were not an Essex native. I think we certainly picked that up from your accent so far. But you started to talk about the role within Highland Fuels and that direct sales approach. Now that's quite an interesting place for somebody that's, I guess, come through an education that didn't have, clearly there was a customer orientation already emerging through the retail, through all of this stuff. But how did you sort of adapt to that? You're in, we like you, we think you're good. Now go out on the road.
Yeah.
How did that sort of all?
Well, I'll be honest. I mean, back then, and we're talking a long time ago. I mean, it was 1997 when I started at Highland Fuels, and I think it was probably about 1999 when I went out on the road. And back then, I was winging it a lot of the time out there. There was definitely support for me. There was, but I suppose my greatest learning came from ExxonMobil at the time, because they were fantastic for training and development, and there was a lot going on then with training courses, and we would go down to Leatherhead and we would just learn so much. And then it wasn't that long after I'd been doing this role for a bit that got together. The Lubricant Company was formed, and that's when I really started to ramp up my learning. Because the difference between Esso and Mobil was quite big. Esso was very much about getting volume through the door. Mobil was more the technical sell, and so when we got together with SLS, that's when I started to learn from the SLS team the more technical side of things. I was back then when I first went out, it was very much about price. I was going about saying, all right, well, we can do this 2 pence a litre cheaper or whatever, and that was how it was for a long time, until I really kind of found my feet and knew a lot more about what I was talking about. And I don't know if back then that maybe was more how it was just out in the industry. People were just a bit more price focused and not so much focused on the other side of things, the value added side. But it certainly, that's how it was for me. And then that just came in time. And as I say, the learning from directly from Mobil was really valuable for me.
So that's interesting, isn't it? Because people like us of 30-ish years in the industry, it's interesting to see this journey. You began in a sales role with not much training, and therefore lots of the habits that you learned in the early days, you didn't know whether they were the good habits or the bad habits, but they got you results, right? And that result often, I guess, came back into a more commodity based.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly
sale.
How it was. Yeah. And then I mean, I'm always surprised at how little sales training there is out there for sales teams, but it's something that we're very conscious of. And I went through some fantastic sales training through Mobil. And then in later roles through some of the other positions I had, we did some great sales training, and it's just kind of all come together over the years, experience and formal training. So.
Well, there's one particularly good sales training company out there, Simon,
I believe
that
so, yeah.
focuses specifically in the lubricant sector. But modesty prevents me from pointing out.
I must research that then. Yeah.
We began there in the early days. Then in Highland Fuels, up and down the breadth of Scotland. I can imagine it being quite romantic on some days, but quite desperate on others, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So the weather conditions there can make it look stunning, or it can make it look rather testing. We're into Highland Fuels. We have this merger. We're merger between Mobil and Esso, and out of this, the Lubricant Company began. And you spent a big chunk of time at the Lubricant Company in various sales and service roles, and it's here you started to just open up to us about how service became much more in your conscious mind, not only how to sell, but what buyers were buying, right? And what's interesting is you talk about that, whether that's a cyclical thing, or as you pointed out, maybe it was like it was, but certainly now through the buyer revolution research, buyers are telling us that the application knowledge and product in application knowledge is absolutely vital. So you guys at the Lubricant Company were probably, in the right space. But it gives you a really good insight then, doesn't it, about what does that really look like from a lubricant partner perspective? So it taught you a lot. What did it really teach you?
I think it taught me the importance of not being that commodity-based company. There's a lot more to it, and there's a huge value in the relationship with customers and the longevity of the customer. Not just out there trying to get the quick sale. When I started working with the Lubricant Company, they were very heavily involved in lubrication management, and more than just lubricants. Some stuff I'd never sort of come across before, but they had people on site just managing the accounts and everything that goes with it, lubrication related. And that was an eye opener for me. And I started to see that, these strong relationships that were in place, and I started to see, well, there's a real importance in that, the building the relationships and just taking everything away from the cost of the product. And that's what, that was probably the biggest learning for me, and the biggest insight was just how important some of the other elements were that made the business, basically, and just strengthened it, and just building on that. Listening to customers, what are their challenges, what are their issues that we can help them with, and we've got a solution for that, and then just continually building. And one of our greatest successes has always been building on the existing customer base we have. Obviously, we're always focused on business growth and new business, but just really maximizing all we can do with the existing business, and never just relying on that business coming our way, just continually reviewing things, listening to the customers and what do they need. And that was a big learning for me. And it's just, that's just carried through right to today, how important it is. All those elements are so important. And there'll always be the people that are, just needing a pail of this or a drum of that. And that's fine. And we can accommodate that. But certainly for, our business model is very much, the value added sort of service that we can provide. So they really, we become a partner. One of our values is partnerships, and that is very much the case. We want to be seen as a partner working with customers. So.
Yeah, certainly, and we'll get to Pure because I mean, I have to say I do love the family vibe that I see in your LinkedIn social posts, and we'll get a little bit to that, because I think that's maybe about the leadership structure. But I want to hang around a little bit more in the Lubricant Company, because you've spoken about a few things there that are good lessons for people who are, I think, listening in. I think there's a couple there. One was about quick sales aren't always the best sales. There was something you said there about it's not always immediate, and I think there's something here about nurturing longer term relationships. And were there mentors or people or structures that gave you space to do that? Because in a commercial business, you're not always given the space to take time or to really nurture deeply those relationships. Now, I don't imagine it's uniquely a Scottish cultural thing that we do that, but so was there people, mentors, moments that really you could highlight for us?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you'll know Andrew Samuel. He's the chairman and founder of Pure Lubrication. He was there right at the start. Well, he was SLS and a great team that he had working for him then. And I just learned so much from Andrew and the team there. When I was working at Highland Fuels, it was a very, very small team. It was myself in lubricants, and then the fuel sales negotiators and some fuel salesmen. But there was not really anybody there on the Highland Fuels side that was experienced or could put that knowledge over to myself. But when I started working with Andrew and his team, who'd been doing this for a long time, I learned a lot from them. So going out on customer visits and just seeing how they operated, the questions they would ask, the solutions they would offer, that was where I got my real learning from. And going to, I guess when I was out on my own and working with Highland Fuels, I probably shied away from some of the real opportunities that were there in Scotland for us, because I didn't want to go into a big paper mill or whatever it was. It was just no way. I'm going to ask questions I don't know. I'm going to, there's going to be things in front of me I'm just not comfortable with. So, I suppose I kind of had a comfort zone that I stuck to. So I was then taken out of that comfort zone, and all of a sudden I was going into these big manufacturing plants, and that was great. I mean, it was interesting to learn, but quickly, I was then starting to experience all these different ways of doing things and what matters to customers and that kind of thing. So yeah, just learning from the people around me and the expertise they had, and it just came so naturally to them that it was great learning for me over the years.
Yeah. And I think we need those moments, don't we, at times, because it's almost about permission to do things in a certain way. I've worked with bosses. Interesting. You talk about, I could really learn from them, and walking with somebody in their shoes, I think, is a very powerful thing. You mentioned in the 5 from 5, that you really, you sort of like, being with the troops.
Yeah.
And I think this is really kind of where we learn this from the leaders that we follow. And Andrew clearly here has played a role in that. So as we start to sort of think about the Lubricant Company and lots of moments, the lessons are clear. And then this was 15 years of learning, was it? Quite a period of time, 21 years even.
Yeah, I mean, some of the dates are a bit blurry now, but yeah, a long a long period of learning and just a great time. I mean, I think when I think back to it, when we were a partner with ExxonMobil, and as I say, there was some great learning there, but there was also some great times there as well. This is where I started to really think. I suppose like anyone, there's times in your career when you're like, is this right for me? And I think there was times like that, probably more so when I was out on the road on my own and there was very little team around me. But then it started to really become enjoyable. And, we would have Andrew and his team, again, when we got together, we just seem to have this great culture of learning and spending time together and enjoying what we're doing. So we would have sales meetings, we would have training sessions, whatever it is, and we would all have a get together after. We'd have a night out, or there were some great times that we had, and a lot of the people I worked with back then are working with me now at Pure Lubrication, and that's because we created a great team, great people, and we wanted them for Pure Lubrication. And we, it is, you mentioned the family sort of feel, and that is genuine at Pure, and that came from way back then. And yeah, we just had some good times, and it really started for me to feel like this is the right industry for me to be in. It's not always the most glamorous looking industry. It's not always the most obvious industry to go into. I fell into it and then maybe had a wobble or two, but started to realize, no, I like this.
And the wobble or two, was that just purely, is it right for me, or were there things that went on in there that we could learn from?
There was nothing specific, but I think, you mentioned about traveling up and down and driving the Highlands, and there's times when you're driving along the road and thinking, this is amazing, this is my job, and I'm looking at these mountains and that kind of thing. But a lot of the time I'm thinking, this is not great. I'm traveling across the west coast of Scotland to meet somebody with a boat, and I'd come away with an order for a box of grease, something like that. And I was like, that's not really rewarding enough for me. And it was just very lonely out there at times. So to suddenly be then involved with a bigger team and dealing with customers who really wanted to see you and talk to you about their challenges and how we could help. That's when it really started to become rewarding, and you feel, no, this is good.
Lower hit rates, missed targets, and no receptionist to patch you through because buyers decide before you arrive. Selling Lubricants Smarter tells Dan Wilder's story of ditching the old playbook. Qualify hard with SpanCop. Plan sharper meetings with Whopper. Use AI to move faster and turn technical expertise into clear outcomes buyers trust. Built on the Buyer Revolution research, it's a practical blueprint for modern lubricant selling. Search Selling Lubricants Smarter on Amazon and buy your copy today.
Because there are some lessons there, right, for people, because sales is can be quite a lonely job, right? But you describe the environment and the culture and the leadership making it the place that you wanted to work. And you mentioned there about customers also. And wasn't it here in this company you became customer services? You would really display customers. Maybe you could share a little bit about that, because I think there's probably some insights there.
Yeah, well, I think talking about my wobbles and thinking, is this right for me? I think Andrew Samuel spoke to me. I think he sort of picked up on how I was feeling about things at the time. And we were also wanting to kind of centralize things. The two companies had come together, formed the Lubricant Company. And all of a sudden we had two offices doing similar roles. So I thought, right, well, let's centralize things and create this customer service team. And would I be interested in sort of heading that up and developing that? And with my background and my sort of how much I enjoyed the customer service side of things in the past, I thought, well, this is great. All of a sudden, I'm not going to be traveling up and down the length of the country, but I'm still going to be talking to customers. I'm going to be doing what I love, what I feel I'm good at. So I became customer service manager for the Lubricant Company, and very quickly that grew. It was myself, and then we recruited another person, and then another person, and it just kind of grew. And we quickly realized that there's a lot more than just being out on the road selling. There's definitely a requirement for remote account management, remote selling. And we were looking at our customer base and thinking, right, well, this chunk of customers, they need this kind of looking after, and this chunk of customers needs this direct sort of looking after, and it just worked really well for us. And I thrived in that role. I loved that, the customer service side of things. And I don't know if it's generally seen that is, they're just remotely managing accounts is just sort of keeping them steady, checking in now and again, that kind of thing. But no, I mean, we grew that business hugely remotely from the customer service office, picked up some fantastic new business and nurtured it and grew it. So it was a model that really worked well for us. And yeah, I loved it.
I love it. I mean, I think there's some, again, it all adds to the skill set that now makes you managing director of Pure, right? But I think there are some pieces in here for people listening in, beginning on their journey to really reflect in around the customer service element of this. And you use the word specifically that I want to pick up on, nurture. You've used it a couple of times. a nurturing approach to business. And we often talk about this in our work, nurturing a suspect population. You don't even know that they're going to one day become customers, but you're educating them on insight and you're nurturing this suspect population. You're talking about nurturing customers, actually the people that are already within the organization. And I just want to connect back to the importance of this to the listener, because the Biorevolution research again says to us one of the biggest ways you can build trust is to regularly educate us with insight, regularly delight us with proactive, forward-looking communications, and don't just turn up when it's time to put the prices up, or exactly. when it's time for the contract renewal. So you were onto something here for sure. When you were with the lubricant company, and I guess you saw this right in customer retention and growth.
And I always just think of it as from, if I'm a customer, how do I want to be treated? And we were very early on very conscious that we weren't going to be one of these companies that, right, what's your account number, what's your reference number, that kind of thing. So we always we were quite formal in our training of the team around that, and the approach we had to customers, that it had to come across really natural in a nice, friendly way. And we just built great relationships with people from that. And I know we won business, we retain business from the approach that we have on the customer service side of things. And communication is always, I know it's a cliche, but communication for us is massive, and the right communication, and just being honest with customers, and just gaining their trust. And the team here today still have that same sort of approach to customers. We've grown, but we've never become that sort of corporate approach to customers. We've always had that warm, friendly kind of approach to customers, but able to give the advice and the information that's needed. So I think when I think of my own experience of dealing with large companies, and you get lost in the system, and then now and again you'll get somebody that, oh, well, they're human, and they remembered that call from last week, and you think, that's exactly what I want. That stands out, And I think not just our industry, and I think a lot of industries, that is really rare now. I think it's becoming more and more important again. We've all been through COVID and how that changed things, and all of a sudden I think the customer service side of things is becoming so important again, because people are now gone through that whole digital automation kind of side of things, and it's great and it's efficient, but actually I want to deal with humans again, and that's where we like to think that we do fit in nicely, because we've always had that approach.
And that's lovely. I mean, it's a lovely piece to hear, and I can only echo it, and I can do it through the lens of biofeedback. I think personalization is absolutely vital as we continue to move forward. Just because we can communicate at scale digitally doesn't mean we should. And if we do, personalization really matters. So if at the heart of what you're operating is this warm approach, again, I think you're really directly connecting to emotions that buyers want to see, hear, and feel, and certainly experiences they want to experience. So it's great to hear that. So as we come out of the lubricant company, we fast forward a bit now, don't we? And what did you get? A knock on the door? Was it Simon? Would you come and be managing director of this new idea, this new enterprise? How did that work?
Well, we'd been through a bit of a journey. The lubricant company was massively successful, and it was great to be a part of that. We were acquired by World Fuel Services, global corporate, predominantly fuel company. And I think they saw the lubricant company as, they were wanting to put a bit more focus on lubricants, and they saw what we did and liked it. And I think they saw, right, well, let's take this model and let's replicate it. So we became part of World Fuel Services, and that was a fantastic time. That was an exciting time for this little guy from the Highlands. All of a sudden, I'm, going into swanky offices in London and spending time down there. I did quite a bit of work on integration and systems, that kind of thing, bringing together 2 or 3 different companies that World Fuels had acquired, sort of bringing them together as one. And that was a great time. Loved that. Did that for a few years, and then things started to change, and lots of things happened, and eventually it got to, I think it was about 2018 when I left the business, and at that point it just tied in nicely. Andrew had, he'd sold the business and had already left, and saw a gap in the market. Didn't want to sail off into the sunset and retire like a lot of people would. He still loved what he was doing and wanted to give this another crack and set up Pure Lubrication. And yeah, got that call. We spent a bit of time in the car. I was going down to Glasgow for a function. Andrew had been up in Inverness. I sat with him in the car and we spoke about this, and I thought, yeah, this is right for me. I do want to do this. I couldn't see myself doing anything else anyway. I think I'd been doing it too long now to think, right, I'm going to go off and do something completely different. And the thought of working with Andrew and the team again just really worked for me. The people bit to me is the most important part of what I do. The thought of just continuing that. I couldn't imagine going to a competitor or, somebody else in the industry and starting again and hoping for the best. That it was a great team. I just thought, no, I want to continue with this team. So yeah, we started up Pure Lubrication. That started back in 2017. I joined 2018. I think it was spring 2018. I started as business manager, and then just kind of evolved to become managing director of the company. Yeah. So
I love what pulled you there. I think that's really great, because you're right. You said you've listened to a few of the Beyond the Blends, and there aren't many people that kind of like went to university and said, I'm going to be in lubrication. But you've kind of found a cultural fit, and almost like that's much more to you, much more important than other aspects that could drive other people. Yeah, right?
We were really proud of the culture that we developed at the Lubricant Company. That was harder to continue with a corporate company. There's so many, you've got to conform in so many ways to the corporate world, and fully understand that. But the culture that we developed was kind of getting lost. So that's why it didn't really sit right with me. So to be able to sort of be in control of our own destiny again and, nurture that culture and continue that with Pure Lubrication was great. And at the time, we cherry picked the key people that we valued and had worked together with, and set up the core team. They're all part of that culture. We didn't have to install that culture in anyone or say this is how we do things. It was just, it came naturally to us all, and we continue to develop that in Pure. And it's something, something we're really proud of. And again, I love what I do at Pure. It's not to say I don't have challenging days. It's not to say I don't have days when you think, oh, there must be more to life than this. But then you think, right, well, what a great team, what a great job, what great customers. It's just like everything is right. And I think that's the important thing. That helps you through the challenging times. And my goodness, I mean, when COVID really hit, we were just in our infancy then. So to be really trying to develop a new business at that time was really tough. But again, the people we, and all the things that we did at that time to help each other through just made me feel there's absolutely no way that I would leave what I'm doing. The people part is a big part for us.
Yeah. So if Andrew's listening into this, Simon isn't leaving. So you don't.
Well, never say never, but it's working now.
You're just keeping him honest, right? You're keeping him honest. Yeah. But I made reference, and I, a very privileged position. I look in at many people who we asked to join us on Beyond the Blend, and I very much have enjoyed seeing the culture of Pure Lubricants, and I must say I do like the family feel I see. I think you share the personal side as well as the business side, the purpose as well as the fun, and I really sort of get that. And I wanted to just ask you this question, because you went from a position of being part of the team to a position of leading the team. Now, you've spoken about lots of things that you you like about Pure, but you're driving that, right? So what are some of the leadership lessons that you take forward and maybe can share with others around that? Because I think it's something to hover on for a while, Simon, because I think there's some real stuff here.
Yeah. Well, again, I learned a lot from Andrew. When I stepped up to the role of managing director, it wasn't just a case of, right, Andrew thinking, right, I'm going to hand all this stuff over to Simon. You know, we spent a lot of time together, a transition, developing my skills into this role. So I did learn a lot from Andrew. I have been on some fantastic formal training courses when I was at World Fuels, and that was one of the great things that came out of that was some of the training that we got back then. You know, they would fly people over from America and we would sit in these big rooms and we would go on some fantastic training courses. And I've done residential courses at Pure. I've spent a lot of time training and learning, and so there's been a lot of development in developing me into this role. And then I guess just working with the team that I work with is they're all experts in their own field. And I'm just, I just pick up on a lot of what they're doing and I learn from them. I didn't come into this role as the know-all and, I'm going to teach everyone, I'm leading the team, but, it's not just, I'm not on my own. It's, it's the team are all around me, and that helps me in my role because I've got such a great team there. I'm not just carrying things alone. It is leading a team of great people that I can rely on. I've never felt that I'm alone in this. I'm at the head of this, and there's this challenge, and how am I going to manage this? It just happens naturally, a lot of it, because I've got the people around me who just fit and are there to support me in my role as much as I am there to lead them and support them in their role.
Yeah, I mean that takes work. Takes work.
Yeah.
I think when you describe the training, I instantly I shouldn't say this as somebody that offers training. Training is just quite a blunt instrument. So culture and leadership, I think, are probably much harder. And I don't know if you can actually be trained to create a culture. I don't know. What do you? Can you be trained to create a culture?
No, I don't.
Do you have to?
I think it's got to come quite naturally, and I think it's got to evolve over time. I suppose you can aspire to something and you can work on that, and I suppose there is elements of that there've been elements of that over the years, but it just seems to happen. It just evolves, and I think yeah, you're right. You can't really train that. You can't instruct somebody about a culture. It just evolves from the right way of thinking, the right way of doing things, the feelings you get from it. And we have recruited at Pure Lubrication. I said we cherry-picked the team, but there's been some new bodies come into the team. And just the way we work, those team members have become part of that culture, and we see them now, very proudly see them working to the same kind of ways and culture that we've done for so long.
So with the culture piece, I guess I wanted to just see if I could segue into something that I listened to on Steve Mayo's podcast, the Lubricants Live podcast. You spoke a bit about the roadmap for growth, and I was wondering, does that actually bring your culture to life within Pure Lubricant?
Yeah, I think so. It does. I mean, we came back into this not just to sell oil or sell services. We wanted to come back into this and this is really driven by Andrew coming back in. As I say, he didn't have to do this, but he really wanted to give a really good go of this business and make it something he wanted to kind of set up a legacy for the future. And we're more than just selling oil. We want to make a difference here. And as we grow, we've got ambitious growth plans. We've grown a lot over the past few years, and we've got a long way to go, big plans for the future. But part of that is making a difference for the team and making them really feel part of it. Everyone understands the potential rewards for them as part of Pure. And that can be multiple things, through benefits, job progression, financially, that kind of thing. But also we want to make a difference for the environment. We know this industry is not famous for being, the most environmentally friendly industry, but we certainly understand the opportunity for this industry to make a difference and make a real contribution to net zero. And socially, we do a lot for charity and that kind of thing. So as a team, we want to grow, but also do the right thing and do good things out there as well. So it's all just part of the big picture for us, having the real ambitious growth plans and knowing the financial numbers and where we want to get to, but also how we want to do it and what we want to do along the way. And I guess that is all connected to the culture side of things as well. We're not just coming in, doing a job, going home and forgetting about it. It's a lot more to it than that.
I mean, to me, that is so powerful, so insightful. Like, what I'm paraphrasing, we'll get the results, we'll get the growth, but we're going to do it the right way, and the right way for us means this,
exactly,
this.
Yeah.
And I think that's really great, a great learning. We'll get there. We'll get the results. We'll get the growth. We're just going to do it the right way. So to be empowered to create a team, to lead a team that is doing that, I can totally resonate why it works and why it fits, because it's very purposeful, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. It's having a purpose, and it's tough out there. It really is. And from the time when I was at the Lubricant Company to now, the industry has just totally changed. Its selling has totally changed. Yourself, and I read all your stuff, and all the stuff you've identified, and the points you regularly make is just fully resonates with myself. We see all of that, and it is really tough out there. But there's some great opportunities for us now that weren't there before. But having that culture, having the team around you that are so important, it helps you through those tough moments, and we all believe in what we're doing and where we're going, and that and as you say, it just then happens. Everything you're just doing everything the best you can, and it just kind of falls into place and does happen. That makes it sound a bit simple, and it's not simple, but it's it's also important for getting where you want to be.
Well, I mean, you talk about simplicity, but we're trying to, through this chat, we've kind of walked our way through quite a journey of self-development, of your personal growth into a senior leadership position with real purpose. So I would imagine you probably do find it easy to articulate, not always easy to do, because you've lived it for so long, right? So I can imagine your uncomfortableness of saying it's easy, I'm making it sound easy, but actually the bit for me and my reflection of my years in the industry, working in organizations, if the leadership and culture is right at the top and the purpose is right, it is easy. It is easier.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. It is. Yeah. And, we're very much of the opinion that it's more about getting the right people in the team. And then the roles can be adapted. We're not going to put people square pegs, round holes, all that kind of stuff. It's not like that. If we know we've got a good person, then we will work with that person to get the best out of them. And we're recruiting just now. We're currently recruiting a couple of roles, but one of the roles is another customer service person to join the team in Inverness. And for us, it's so important to get the right person, that fits with the team, that has the right mindset, the right outlook on life. Whether they've got customer service experience or any selling experience is kind of secondary to that, because that can come in time. We could take on the best salesman, and then if they didn't quite fit with the team or the culture or our ways of forward looking, then it's not going to work, or it's a lot harder to make it work. So
Well, you're proof of the pudding there, because you were the guy that sat sunbathing when you should have been doing the examinations, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. But you can get there eventually.
Yeah. But you can. But I think it's almost this sort of self-fulfilling world, right? I'm not looking for you to be the expert. I'm looking for you to be the right person. And I think that's a really great way to just sort of take a pause as I sort of bring us to a little bit of a close, because we've traveled quite a journey. And I just want to ask you one last question before we do indeed wrap up. If you was to offer somebody coming into this space that magical piece of Simon Campbell advice, how would you crystallize that right now? What would it be? What would you tell them?
For someone coming into the industry?
Yeah, let's just say that.
I mean, to me, it's a world of opportunity. And I've experienced a lot of those opportunities. As I said before, it's not necessarily the most, from the outside looking in, exciting industry. But once you're in there, there's so many opportunities. It's really rewarding. There's just so many different areas you can get your teeth stuck into. And don't be put off by the sort of technical side of it, because I'm not a technical person. But you kind of become that person that you can talk your way through it, and you can speak to customers on their level, and you end up living and breathing this. But it's just a great opportunity. Sometimes the best industries to be in aren't the most obvious ones, but this industry is great, and lubrication is going to be around for a long, long time. And I think it's going to go through some changes for sure, but it's an exciting industry to be in. And I came into this industry with no knowledge at all, and now I'm a managing director of a lubricant company that's going places. So yeah, I don't know if that's inspiring or what, but it's it just shows you there's some great opportunities within this industry.
Well, I actually think it probably is inspiring, Simon, to be perfectly honest.
Good.
So thank you. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. Somebody that was clearly
didn't have a clue what they were doing.
Didn't have a clue what they were doing.
Yeah.
Decided that they would give it a go. Drove all around Scotland, then got a job driving up and down the country, then joined a company for 20 odd years and learned so much that they got pulled out and asked to be managing director of a lubrication company. I think that's absolutely fantastic. So look, Simon, thanks for taking us from those early fuel days through to leading Pure and mapping out that kind of different growth journey, I want to call that. If people wanted to find out more about the work of Pure Lubrication or yourself, what is the best place for them to find you?
Well, as you've sort of said, we're quite active on LinkedIn. You can follow us on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. We've got a nicely refreshed website. We just want to be out there meeting as many people as possible and, attend shows and that kind of thing as well. So hopefully we can do that. And we're always happy to talk to people.
Lovely. Well, Simon, thank you ever so much.
Oh, thank you
for joining us on Beyond the Blend. It's been a pleasure and a treat
fun
to meet you and get to know you better. So thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Lubricant Expo and the Bearing Show North America returns to Detroit from March 17 to 19, 2026. Meet leading companies showcasing the latest technologies in lubrication, bearings, reliability, condition monitoring and plant performance all in one place. You'll join engineering, maintenance, procurement and R&D professionals, plus OEMs and end users. Attend our world-class conference, network and strengthen professional relationships, access workshops and training sessions, all completely free. This is where new partnerships are formed, deals are done, and the future of industrial reliability is shaped. Register now at lubricantexpo.com/NA.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Beyond the Blend. Be sure to follow us to catch next and future episodes as we continue to explore the people within the lubricant market.